Wow. I am I've been looking forward to this conversation. I know many of you have asked me over and over again, explain a living trust or explain a this or that and an estate planning attorney and where am I supposed to do this and that and who should my beneficiary be and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's not my area of expertise. And so I decided that I really wanted to give you all an opportunity to speak with someone, or at least to hear from someone who is a trusted advisor, an estate planning attorney. His name is Cedric Collins, and I am so delighted to have him on board with us today, and so that he can enlighten us with all these answers to questions that you guys all want to ask me, like I'm supposed to be an expert, which I'm not in his field. That's why I brought the expert. So, attorney Cedric E. Collins is the founder and principal of Legacy One Law Firm. He represents individuals, families, and businesses in estate planning, entertainment, and intellectual property law matters. That's a big word right there. As a trusted advisor, Cedric prides himself in providing unwavering level of service, which is client-focused and results-driven. He firmly believes that building authentic relationships is essential to creating favorable outcomes for clients and has instilled this value into the fabric and culture of Legacy One Law Firm. And why this is so important to me is because education is key. I've found that many people go through life and they don't really, they've never really had an education about how to protect themselves or how to protect their family and build legacy. And they just don't know how to do it and they don't know who to turn to. So that's why I really wanted to have Cedric, with his expertise to come on, because you need the education, you need the information. And if we all know better, we'll do better. So, Cedric, with your vast knowledge and expertise, I am so glad to have you on today.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction. Jacqueline, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. And I think I'm here to share something that's going to be impactful in the lives of many people. So thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, it's my pleasure is mine. So I'm going to jump right into it. I want to ask some questions because everybody, today is AI and everybody's using AI, right? And so they're using AI tools. So how is AI affecting estate planning and how is it safe? Is it actually safe for someone to rely on AI tools to generate their estate documents?
That's an excellent question, a great question to start this topic off with. There's so much concern, right, and dismay, both excitement and kind of fear, kind of mixed emotions when it comes to estate planning and, AI, right? And then now when we apply AI with estate planning, there's all these online platforms, and you can maybe these prompts and commands that are designed to maybe spit out an estate plan. But our concern here, twofold. For one thing, your question you asked, was it safe? Well, here's the thing. As a licensed professional, we're actually admonished to go behind all of these different AI services and confirm that the information is, first of all, accurate. Because these open AI sources, they're pulling from who knows where in terms of this knowledge that's just online, right? So that's the first thing. We don't know if the information that's being put into your estate plan is accurate law because it's being generated from various sources online. So that's the first thing. And the second issue is when it comes to safety is you just don't know what you don't know. When it comes to kind of that DIY, to do it yourself approach, there's blind spots. And we don't know what we don't know. We don't know who's the appropriate person to put in this position. Will the property actually stay out of probate? All of these questions. So my personal recommendation is save the DIY for the home improvement project. Worst case scenario, if you mess up the bathroom, the remodel in the living room doesn't go correct, you can call a contractor to fix it. However, if you don't get your estate plan right because you use some type of online tool or AI or resource, once you've passed away, it's too late. It's too late to fix that mistake.
That could be critical. Oh my goodness. So, with that in mind, I keep hearing that probate is getting more complicated and expensive. And what are the biggest probate challenges that people are running into today?
Well, mostly, look, here, probate is a beast. So, as a probate attorney, believe the hype when you hear the stories about 2 and 3 year probates and families fighting, folks losing properties. And it's just heartbreaking as a probate attorney when I see someone who wants to keep the home and they can't keep it.
Mm,
Oftentimes, it's the nuances. So, many people try to go it alone, and you do not have to have an attorney going through probate, but it's highly recommended. In fact, I
mm,
had one client who they had been fighting for a year, siblings fighting, nieces and nephews fighting in court for over a year before the judge threw up his hands and said, "Hey, now you got to get an attorney at this point." Right?
mm,
Because as a trained legal professional, we know the pitfalls, we understand the law, we can understand how the court might treat certain situations. But if you're a novice, this isn't something that you can just maybe Google, right, and get information on and think that you're going to stand before a judge and accurately or best represent your family's interest. So I think the complexities here is just not really understanding and knowing what to expect and not having the training as a professional to know how to navigate the process successfully.
So what I hear you say is not knowing what you need to know. That's not the time to find that out in the courtroom, right? Oh my
Exactly. To
gosh,
save a
that's
few bucks. And most of the time it's to save a few bucks here or there.
yeah,
And sometimes it can cost more.
it ends up costing more in the end. Oh wow. Okay. Good to know. Now, I know, we're surrounded by families that are blended. And so, what are the estate planning mistakes that you've been seeing most often when it comes to modern blended families?
That's a great question, Jacqueline, because we do live in an age where it seems seemingly the divorce rate is creeping and slowly on the rise. And that was there was a spike in divorces, during the pandemic as we came out of that, and that continues to kind of be an issue. And then when you have that divorce, people are reuniting, right? And they're coming together. And when you're looking at a blended family, you typically have a non-traditional couple that maybe is coming into this relationship with their own assets and their own unique family dynamics and their own children. And
Mm,
so this requires special planning to take into consideration the interests of all parties. Unfortunately, we have situations where there's a surviving spouse when one spouse passes away. And here's something that's scary. A lot of the children, the stepchildren, once that parent has passed away, and now let's say there's a widow, a spouse that's there, the only thing standing between those children who survived and their inheritance is that step parent. And
oh,
so now there's the pressure that comes from what did my dad leave? What did my mom leave? We know or we thought they had a will. Many times there's nothing in place at all. And there's this added pressure that's there. It's enough that that person has to deal with the stress of losing a loved one. Now they have that added pressure of the adult children in most cases saying, hey, what did my dad leave? What did my mom leave? And without having an effective plan in place, there's no mitigation to that stress.
mm. So that Cinderella story really is real.
Yes, seemingly, right? There's the evil godmother or wicked
Yeah, step
godmother, that
parent.
stepmother,
Yeah.
right? Step parent now. And so yes, that can much of that can be avoided with proper planning that's taken into consideration those dynamics that are unique to a blended family situation.
Wow. Okay. All right. So yeah, killer. We're gonna keep that in mind. Wow. So okay, let's take a different tactic. I hear of people that own real estate or, or a home in California. And how would a trust benefit an individual or family in that situation? Because I mean, homes are expensive out here in California.
Absolutely. And one thing for sure, Jacqueline, is they're not making any more land. All the land that's on earth is already here. Right. So we're
Good
not making
point.
any new land. So people will fight over real estate. out of all the asset types that you can have, real estate is probably the most, by far, the most contentious. Because let's think
Mhm.
for a minute here. When someone owns a home, right? When you buy that first home, and you really feel like you have a legacy to leave. Real estate, there's so many people that have built their wealth throughout the generations through real estate. And so now when someone passes away, and let's say there's no plan in place, now the court needs to get involved, especially where there's maybe both spouses have passed away, maybe you have a husband and a wife or two spouses names on the deed. Now there's that generational transfer because both names that were on that deed have passed away, and now there's that next generation with no trust in place. Now
Mm.
the court has to get involved to decide who the rightful heirs are. And they're not going to do this out of the kindness of their own hearts. And because of that, there's lawyers involved, there's court fees, appraisals, there's real estate professionals. So many people have their hands in the pot, if you will. And the downside to all of this is oftentimes the house gets lost in probate because now
Mm.
that's the only asset or the main asset. And so they're not liquid. Many people spend their lives with, paying for a home or trying to pay off a mortgage. And a lot of times, oftentimes, that's the only asset. And so now, if that's the only asset, well, how are we going to pay all these lawyers and judges and professionals? They're oftentimes forced to sell this home. And this could be the home, the childhood home that they'd grown up in. And so there's not only are there the cost impacts of sending that home through probate, but it's the time. Would you want your kids to have to wait up to 2 years to inherit the home that you leave for them?
Mhm.
So not only is it very expensive to have your home passed to your kids through probate, it's also time consuming, and there are a myriad of other challenges that could arise, such as how this mortgage is going to get paid off. That's also an issue that comes up a lot. Sometimes foreclosure. All of these issues could arise when there's a home that you haven't properly planned for during your lifetime.
Mhm. That's where I get to come in. But okay, but just make sure that they have asset protection, right? But that's
Absolutely.
such a shame to think that someone might have saved their entire life and wanted to pass their house on to their kids and to keep it in the family, and without the right planning, that they could actually lose it.
Absolutely.
Wow, that would just be devastating. I would hate for that to happen.
It is,
So,
and it's a tough conversation to have, Jacqueline, to tell
yeah.
somebody like, no, we know you wanted to keep your childhood home, but it's just not feasible under the circumstances.
Right. It yeah, you're not going to be able, oh my goodness, that would be tragic. So with that in mind, does it behoove a young adult to actually look at estate planning at a younger age rather than, waiting until they're retired to start talking? Do you see a trend happening where younger people are starting to ask questions about estate planning?
Well, great question. So if that, I'm going to give you the standard lawyer answer of it depends, right? Well, what does this young person have? Now, you have to at least be an adult, especially here in California. Our audience is primarily here in California. We're only licensed here in the state because when you're using a trust as a contract, you have to be, first of all, old enough to at least enter and execute a contract. So
Mhm.
at the age of 18, it really depends. We're here in LA. One of my youngest clients is a 19-year-old songwriter, performer, came to us under the advice and counsel of his family and his
Wow.
financial advisors. And he's 19 years old. We established a living trust, right? Then we have some folks that are in their 90s and everywhere in between. But the trick about this is we don't know when we're going to go. So
Mm.
if you can have assets at a very young age nowadays, especially with all these social media influencers and people accumulating assets very young, and so you don't have to be, grandma's age in order to get a plan in place. You can be in your 20s. You can be a young family with minor children in the home, right? What's going to happen to your kids? How are they going to be financially supported? You can be a young parent in their late 20s or early 30s. So it
Mm.
really is more of a life circumstance situation, but it's never too soon if you're an adult to at least start the conversation to become more educated on this topic.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so that means that, my young ones, my 20 somethings need to start looking at their estate plan. But right now, my
Absolutely.
estate plan is their estate plan. So yeah, we got to get them with some where they can have their own stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay. So for people who want to avoid family conflict, what planning tools or strategies are most effective today?
Great question. So, first of all, having a plan in writing. So it's not enough to sit down. I know this is the holidays at the time that we're recording this. A lot of families are coming together. Thanksgiving just passed. We've got Hanukkah, Christmas, all these things happening. So family gatherings here, right? So a lot of conversations are being had, but the conversation's only step one, right? So they say a goal not written down is just a wish, right? It's the same thing with estate planning. There's no such thing as an oral will here in California. So no
Hmm.
matter what you tell your children or your loved ones, if it's not in writing, it's not going to have the force and effect of law. And
Wow.
so it's an interesting statistic here of about 44% of disputes, post-death disputes, are sibling rivalries.
Hmm.
Siblings going at each other's throat over houses, over money, over couches and furnitures and paintings on the wall. And so if you leave here and you haven't given your kids the opportunity to know what your wishes are, they're aimless here. And now they're left to figure it out for themselves. And that's added stress. And whatever you can
Hmm.
do to make things easier for them, it's gonna help the family relationship, because one of the things that unfortunately that I see as an estate attorney is that sometimes siblings will never talk to each other again based upon what happened when one or both parents have passed away. So get your wishes in writing.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that would be terrible. I mean, but it's like if you want them to do it a certain way or to take care of your estate a certain way, I think you need to get it down in writing. That to
Absolutely.
me just makes sense. While you're healthy and you have the ability to make decisions while you're in your right mind and you're comfortable and you can have conversations and kind of work it out instead of leaving it for the kids to fight it out. That would be just terrible. Wow.
Absolutely. Don't take the pressure off them. And one of the things that my mom always says to me is that, hey, when I leave this earth, I want you to have a great relationship with your brother and sister. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that most parents, they have shared that sentiment. They don't want us, they would hate to know. They would roll over in their graves, if they will, right? If they
Absolutely.
found out that their kids stopped talking and they could have done something to help alleviate or mitigate that by having a plan in place while they were alive.
Exactly. Don't leave it for us to assume what you wanted to do. I get it. So, what role does a power of attorney or healthcare directive? I know that my mom had some health concerns last year, and they asked immediately, did she have a healthcare directive, which she does. And so, what role does that play if someone becomes incapacitated? And why are these documents so critical today? I mean, because everybody says, well, I've got a power of attorney, but what's the difference between that healthcare directive thing?
And they're easy to mix up because they both are deal with what happens when one becomes incapacity as it relates to what we call a comprehensive estate plan.
Mm-hmm.
We believe here at Legacy One Law Firm that we're being professionally irresponsible if we only plan for what happens when you die. A lot of we know we're all going to leave here, but a lot of events can transpire, and some of us there may be a quick sudden death, but sometimes there's a slow dragging out process for an extended period of time, and you still have assets to be concerned about. You have a mortgage, you have maybe have young children, you still have responsibilities, and you're kind of maybe hanging in the balance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that incapacity documents, that healthcare directive, financial power of attorney, what that financial power of attorney, it deals with who's going to manage your financial affairs when something happens, who has access to resources. If this must be pre-authorized by you, you have to have consent, give someone prior written consent to execute these wishes. You can't just tell someone and verbally they have the power. It has to be through the proper legal instrument to do this, first of all. The same pertains to the advanced healthcare directive. Let's say you're out in town, you don't make it home, you're seriously injured, and you don't die. Who's going to speak to those medical professionals on your behalf? How will your personal wishes with your body be made known if you don't have it in an instrument that's recognized and has the force and effect of law? Once again, and that's the incapacity planning that we help put in place for each of the clients that we have the privilege of serving here.
That's absolutely necessary, especially like you said, if you can't make decisions for yourself, who do you want to make the decisions for you? So you need to say that before the situation happens, right? Oh,
Absolutely. And one of the
absolutely.
biggest myths, Jacqueline, is especially with our married couples, is they think that the spouse automatically has all this power, and someone gets into an accident and the spouse realizes that, hey, their power is very limited.
Wow. 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 Yeah, that's really good to know. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, you guys better get ready, because I know his information is gonna be posted here at the end. So just get ready. So get your pen and paper. So, what are the warning signs that someone's existing will or trust is out of date and it might not work the way that they think? Like, I mean, does the time matter? I mean, if they got a trust like 20 years ago, is it still in effect, or does it lose? Does it get stale? What happens with that?
Well, look, here's one thing for practical. If your child was in elementary school and now he has a goatee and you haven't looked at your estate plan, it's a good chance that your estate plan is out of date. And
Okay.
I recall when I worked in higher education, I got a good tip long before I opened up my law firm, because when I first learned that I was going to, start my firm and do estate planning, one of the professors said, "Hey, Cedric, you know what? Our daughter was like 7 years old when my husband and I got an estate plan in place. I want to give you one piece of advice. Keep in contact with your clients. We never heard from that attorney again. And unfortunately, life has come up and we just haven't done anything." So we see that that's a very common issue, because what's going to change over the years, right? This is not meant to be a static one-time document that's good for all time, right? Because as your life changes and evolves, so should your estate plan. What are the big four things? The laws could change. We know laws are changing all the time.
Mhm.
Your beneficiaries can change. Maybe people die and new family members are born, right? There's divorces and new marriages, right? You also have your assets can change. Maybe you purchase new property. Maybe you sell property. Maybe you've come into some money, or maybe you have an inheritance now that you want to protect, right? And then finally, your wishes. Your wishes might change. You might have had a great relationship with someone that you want to provide for 3 or 4 years ago. Now times have gone by and now you don't even speak to that person anymore. So
Oh,
all
wow.
of these things can change and they all can have a drastic impact on your plan. So we want to make sure our clients have a plan and have periodic reviews. It's something that we provide. So that way we know that the plan that we're going to put in place for your household is going to going to work the way that you intended it to work eventually upon your passing.
Now, how often should they review that plan in that case?
As often as necessary. But what we try to encourage is every few years we have an open door policy. If we do your estate plan, then we want to see you every couple, 2 or 3 years. So we put periodic reviews in there for our clients that we don't charge for, because we want to have an open door policy and a relationship, if you will. So every 2 to 3 years, but if there is a major life event, a triggering event, a death, a purchase of a major asset, you want to have a conversation with your estate attorney to see how this might impact the plan that you have in place.
Okay. Okay. All right. So just stay in touch, right? So don't, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that's what you do very well, so
We try. We try to make that top priority here.
clients don't have to worry about that. So how can trust protect assets from creditors, lawsuits, divorcing spouses of beneficiaries, those kind of things? How can trust protect you from those kind of issues?
Well, one of the things I want to start by saying, there is no bulletproof, foolproof method that will make you invincible under the law. There's no document under the sun that can do that. However, a well, carefully thought out estate plan, or including a living trust with the appropriate provisions, can put certain safeguards in there to help you protect from these unexpected contingencies. What if there's a beneficiary in your trust that goes through a divorce? right?
Mm,
We know how brutal divorce can be. How might that impact? What if one of your beneficiaries is in a serious car accident and they don't have enough insurance? Someone dies or is critically injured.
mm,
How might that impact the inheritance that you've left for them in a trust? And so, what we can do is we can put certain provisions in there that may help safeguard against those contingencies.
mm. Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I mean, because yeah, it's like, you have a plan, but what if that plan doesn't work exactly according to that plan? You need to have the backup plan. I hear
Absolutely.
you. I
And we
hear
can
you.
help put that backup plan in place for a family.
Okay. So, how do you, as an estate planning attorney, make sure that the beneficiary, the titles and designations don't like clog up the system and mess things up that like affect the rest of the plan?
Well, here's one of the challenges that we run into, and we call it bootleg estate planning, where you think, hey, you know what? I don't need to call an attorney and get a will or a trust. I have my kids on everything, right? But here's the one, and I did a video about this a couple of years back, and it really opened up a lot of eyes because many people think that, hey, why get a plan where I have my kids on my insurance policies? There's a lot of rules and a lot of things that could occur that might prevent that person or that intended beneficiary from receiving from you directly. The first thing that might happen is your child might not be old enough.
Mm.
Yes, people put underage minor children on life insurance policies, as you know, so that raises their hand for probate, right? I've never seen an insurance company give a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old $100,000 or $1 million check,
Not
right?
gonna happen.
It's going to go through the court process, the probate process. So there's little pitfalls. Another pitfall that we often see: what happens when that person that you designated as a beneficiary? What happens if they predecease you, or they die with you simultaneously? Right. So,
Yeah.
so we believe that there is a better way, and we love to discuss the different options available with your clients' one-on-one situations. Everyone's situation is different. We believe there's a superior way than just naming a person to get a check outright, and we can discuss, what true legacy planning looks like beyond a beneficiary designation.
Okay. So that's, yeah, with the beneficiaries. Now, what about if you have a business and you run a business with someone or you have a business partner? What kind of estate planning steps have to go into place to ensure that the business will continue to run smoothly?
That is actually a different area of law that is closely related to estate planning, and it's something that we do provide. It's called business succession planning.
Oh, okay.
It's a different field, but it ties into, because your business, and many people sleep on this, is a part of your estate. There's
Mm,
LLCs, there's corporations, sole proprietorship businesses, partnership, where there's a percentage of that business that's tied up in court. That percentage that you own, whether it's 100%, 10%, 50%, that's your personal property and a part of your estate. So there's one thing to say, okay, there's a payout when we die, but if you intend that that business survive you, now many small business owners, the business is going to die with them, but there could be other employees, other partners that they need to carry on that
mm,
business as their livelihood. They need to be able to carry on even in your absence. And that's where business succession planning comes in. And we can show you how this all ties into your estate plan as well, because they go hand in hand. But that business succession plan, think of it like a trust or an estate plan just for your business.
mhm. Okay, very good. That's very good to know. Now I'm going to ask a question that's very self-serving. What role does life insurance play in a living trust or
Now,
in
how did I predict that it eventually would come all back down to this, Jacqueline? That it
Absolutely.
eventually
That's
come
why I have
down
you
to.
on. I'm not crazy.
Now, I am a champion and advocate for life insurance. I've funded my personal trust. We've helped families fund their trust with life insurance, because life insurance is like that Swiss Army knife, if you will, as a part of your trust, because it can do so many different things. And
Mm,
what many people don't know, when I talked earlier about uh, planning beyond a beneficiary designation, because once you've already given the money, you can't plan for it. But if you funnel it through your trust, you can use those life insurance proceeds to do various things. To give you one example, what if you have a mortgage on that house, which most people have some type of mortgage? Many people die with a mortgage still intact. But what if you leave behind a spouse? Were you the primary breadwinner? Will that spouse have enough resources to be able to pay the mortgage in your passing and in your absence? Well, we can help strategize how life insurance might make that possible. What if you want your kids to keep a house that's been in the family and they're very young? Are they going to be able to afford the financial responsibility with maintaining a home? Well, life insurance, for example, is one can be used in a way to help you preserve that asset even in your death. So planning for what happens to your house is just one of several strategies that we can help you employ. There's a lot of talk about generational wealth these days, right? But many people don't know how to actually make that generational wealth occur. Life insurance can help in so many ways, but you just have to have the team around you and the professional guidance, so you don't have to go make these mistakes on your own. And once you've passed away, as I mentioned earlier, it's too late. So we need to have that conversation now with professionals such as yourself. How do we best utilize these policies that we have in place to protect and preserve your family's legacy?
Hey, like I said, I always have to throw in a little question that's it's going to come back into my court, but I appreciate you for indulging me. Anyway.
Absolutely. My
So
pleasure, Jacqueline.
as we wrap it up, I'd just like to know if someone was just being introduced to Legacy One for the first time, what would you say sets your firm apart from others? What's your distinctives?
Well, first of all, Jacqueline, we care. We care, and we care about what happens to our clients' loved ones, their assets, the things that they've worked to build, many of our clients over a lifetime. So first of all, whenever you're going to hire a firm, some people may be looking at this in other states. And in fact, in my book, I have a chapter that's dedicated on how to pick the right estate planning attorney for you. I wrote a book that's available on Amazon, Prudent Planning for Family Legacy, The Truth Behind Wills, Trust, and Estates. And maybe we can arrange something to make this available to some of your viewers. But in that book,
Absolutely.
I go over, how to find that right attorney. And most of it, first of all, they have to care. They have to have a soul, right? It has to be something beyond just document preparation. So we want to get to know you. We want to get to know your values, whether they be educational values, spiritual values, financial values. All of that can be embodied in a customized family legacy plan. And so we want to tailor fit. Every family is a little bit different. And when I say family, I don't necessarily mean a traditional family. You could be, we serve plenty of single people. So, hey, single folks too, you need a plan in place. So we can sit down and customize a plan that's going to give you the desired outcome that you seek, as opposed to what the state or federal government may have for you when you don't have a plan. So I think that's the distinction there. We care about what happens to you. We care about what happens to your assets, what happens to your kids, grandkids. And how do we now reflect that care in a custom crafted instrument that's going to protect and preserve what you've worked hard to build?
Wow. So once they get connected with your firm, now they're part of the family.
Absolutely. Family approach. Most of our clients come from word of mouth referrals. We've had the privilege of serving multiple generations in one family.
Very, very good. Well, that's why I have you on today, because that's the way, people view you, and they appreciate that custom, that family approach, that holistic approach, to not just say, I just want to sell you something, but I want to make sure that you and your children and your children's children are going to be okay. So that's why this was so important. And I so appreciate you spending time just to educate my guests on, the importance of living trust and understanding estate planning, and not waiting until the last minute, that we always want to avoid that. But just, making it make sense, and just giving us the education that we need. And I so appreciate you taking the time to share that with my with my guests today.
It's
And
my pleasure, Jacqueline. My pleasure.
how would they get in touch with you?
Well, there's several different ways that you can connect with us on. I believe we'll have some contact information posted here. at the end of this video, but you can find this online at www.legacy, three words, legacy, one law, one O-N-E, spelled out like the number law.com. www.legacyoneLaw.com. You can find us on the web, Google. We have our contact information at the screen, our number 323-405-7017. Please reach out. We'd like to offer anyone under the sound of our voice now a free consultation, while obviously subject to availability. So please, there'll be a link provided probably somewhere in the comments here where you can just jump right on the calendar, have a conversation with a member of our team. We'd be delighted to help you start that conversation, because that's step one, is having the conversation, and then we can help do the heavy lifting from there.
Wow, that is fantastic. Thank you so much, Cedric. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
being so transparent and being willing to educate and just take the time so that we can get the knowledge that we really need so that we can help families do better. It's so important for people to get that education. And you said free. Oh my goodness, an initial free consultation. Hey,
Yes, yes.
take
So
advantage of that.
please
It's
take
like,
advantage of that. It's the holiday season. There's no greater gift to give than the gift of legacy,
that's right. That's
right?
right. I totally agree.
The shameless plug there, right?
Yeah,
The
right,
gift of
right, right.
legacy.
Hey, I'm not mad at you. You know how we do. Anyway,
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Cedric. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to our next event where we'll be talking about even more things, and I look forward to that.
Absolutely, Jacqueline. Thank you so much.